Hey everybody, welcome to The Early Edge, a mentorship podcast for next generation leaders where we share insights we wish we had learned earlier in our careers.
We want to equip you to learn more, grow faster, and thrive in both your work and personal life. I'm Jay.
And I'm Jeff. Let's get into today's episode.
Hello, everybody. We are happy to be back and chatting about a pretty fun topic that may not feel fun in the moment, but it's a pretty important topic, and it's something that most people will experience in their career at some point. The topic is non-ideal or just plain old bad boss.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about this one.
There are rare occasions where someone's career is perfectly free of having to deal with someone who is non-ideal as a leader. Either they're just overtly a tough person to work with, or they could be just not providing what I need in order for me to be successful or to grow my career. So today we're going to talk about examples from our careers of both of those situations and how we navigated it, and also how perhaps you as the audience can navigate it when you get in this situation. And then we're going to turn the camera on you and say, how do you watch out for yourself becoming a boss that is viewed as a bad boss? Because I think a lot of folks, and especially those who are maybe not providing what we need, they're not doing it on purpose. It just maybe they're not equipped to do it, or they don't understand or aren't intentional about it. So I'm going to assume positive intent for most of these cases.
Most being the key word. There are some that are doing it on purpose.
There are some think that is how they're supposed to operate, or they just don't care. But in most cases, it's bosses are trying to have a good result. And sometimes that to them it's a good result with the way I treat people or the feelings the people I lead have. Or it could be I'm a business result. We need ROI. We need bottom line. The feelings of the people I lead are less important. So we're going to navigate both how do you deal with it if you're in that situation, and then how do you avoid becoming someone who's viewed as a bad boss? Good?
Yes.
So, Jeff, why don't you kick us off with a story of one of the not ideal bosses from your career?
I will say I've only had a couple that come to mind, and I'm going to use one just because I think they clearly are. If you asked me who was the worst boss you ever had, this individual would be that person.
Okay.
I'm not going to share their names because they are still on the planet, and I don't know, whether they'll hear this or not, but I guess my view is if they do hear it, well, hey, you reap what you sow.
They had a role in creating this impression.
That's right.
Okay,
that's
good.
right. So, hey, if you're out there and you're listening and you know who you are,
I want the best for you.
You had this coming.
I want the best for you.
Yeah. So this wasn't all that long ago. We're talking within the last 10 years, not real recent, but let's pinpoint about 8 or 9 years ago.
Okay.
And this was an individual that was a C-level leader and an owner of the business. Mid-market business, so, pretty decent-sized mid-market business. And so it wasn't like I had a lot of options since they were an owner and a C-level leader. And just give you a sense for why I say, this boss was a bad boss, it was probably not one specific thing, but it was a collection of a lot of things. Boy, the one that just comes to mind for me initially is every time he would join either his leadership meeting or my team meeting, I was leading a function, he would join the meeting and say, "Hello, marketing f***ers." We'll beep that out. In a very brash tone and just,
So it wasn't, hey, locker room bros.
No.
It was negative.
It was negative, and because there are certainly people, to your point, that just might be trying to be funny or do whatever.
Don't understand, totally blind.
But this was just a very brash individual.
Yeah.
In my definition of a bully, this was the definition.
Yeah.
Very little concern or respect for others, at least the perception of the team members.
Sure.
This wasn't just my view. This was so many people's view. And it was just a person that when I think of a great leader, when I think of a good leader, when I think of an average leader, really not many traits that fit any of those things that I think about.
Yeah. So let's talk about the impact on a team, on the business. The answer seemed fairly obvious, but can you just describe the environment that created, that kind of behavior?
I think the first thing that it drove was oh gosh, they're going to be in our meeting. And so then you're placating to that individual.
Yeah.
And they're going to take the floor for most of the meeting and take over control of the meeting.
Got it.
They're not going to listen to other people's ideas. Only their ideas are the good ideas.
And that creates disengagement. That creates an environment where people stop trying to contribute. And what I found in environments where that's the case is the high performers who are not enabled to participate and share their expertise will slow down, shut down, and ultimately they'll leave.
So true.
Yeah.
Yes. And I came close.
Yep.
Fortunately, this individual retired and there was some changes. And so, it all worked out. But when I talk about those things, some people listening may say, oh, well, gosh, you can't deal with a brash person or somebody that uses cuss words all the time. That was not my experience through my career to be around that kind of environment.
Yeah.
So part of what I had to do was just ask myself, can I live with this? Though to your question earlier, a part of the real problem came when it came to strategies and decisions. So I'm filling a key role in my team, and this individual wants to tell me which person I should hire.
Got it.
And it's not the person I would hire.
Yeah.
And most of those, by the way, when I was told who to hire, didn't work out. So
did you report directly to this person, or was their involvement in your business because of their ownership position?
I reported directly to the individual.
Okay, so yeah. So it wasn't just somebody who had equity in the business kind of going across dotted lines to talk to you. You had a reporting relationship. So
right.
When they are telling you who to hire, their authority trumps yours.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So
yes. And it could be a little bit different if in a situation like this where maybe they're not an owner, but still they're your boss, and it makes it very difficult.
There's an example, very common, well-known example of a very toxic leader, Steve Jobs from Apple, who innovated 6 different industries. So you can't argue with the commercial and technological success of this person and this organization under his leadership. So I'm going to start with that. And the toxicity, the way he led, was bullying. And the people that stuck around with him either got used to it or were themselves comfortable with behaving in that way. Mm-hmm. It's also very funny that he's regarded for a quote that basically said, why would you hire smart people and tell them what to do? Yet, when you read his bio, by the way, that author, and I will think of it in a minute,
Walter
Isaacson,
yes,
also did the Musk biography, which was great too. That author describes exactly the behavior that he quoted as saying is not effective about hiring smart people and telling them what to do. He would not only hire smart people, he would tell them what to do, and then he would hammer them and berate them. So,
I wish, because I've read that book and it is a fascinating book. Gosh, for anybody that hasn't read it, it is amazing the things that he touched that we all experienced and had no clue he was a part of.
Correct.
Amazing. Part of me gives him a little bit of a pass. Again, I didn't work for Steve Jobs, so I don't know what the day in the life of was like, but he was so smart, and it was almost his way of leading his team to better outcomes. And whether or not it fits someone's description of a bully might be different depending on how you define bully, but certainly there were moments in his career where it was pretty toxic.
Well, this will lead us to so Jeff, what do I do if I'm working for someone who I feel like is a bully? How do I navigate that? And I think the Steve Jobs example is good because some people chose to navigate it and some people chose to leave and give great quotes about what a jackhole he was.
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, it was not any one thing really, how you greet everybody when you start a meeting or how you take over a strategy or a hiring decision when you really should leave that to your leaders. It wasn't any one thing. It was kind of the culmination of all of them. What I wanted to do and what I tried to do was say, why do I feel this way? Am I the only one? And is there a way that I could build a relationship with this person so there's some more trust there and so there's some more respect both ways?
Yeah.
That didn't happen in this case just because other things happened which kind of worked the situation out. I did stay there for quite a number of years after that. But to me, the first thing somebody's got to do is really size up the situation. And is this something that I can put up with or not? And I think we want to dissect that a little bit. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Because at the end of it, you got to make a decision. You can't just waddle. We've used that term before.
Yep.
You can't just kind of allow this to keep happening if it's causing you significant stress or anxiety.
Yeah, you have to decide what's in the boundaries and out of bounds, what is acceptable and not acceptable, and is there a benefit that I will experience by sticking this out for a certain period of time. Maybe this is an interim period where I know where my next move will be, or I know that I'll have access to steps, a year or two from now. Can I tough it out? Is there anything I can actually learn through dealing with this, enduring this? But you do need to first understand what are the acceptable boundaries. And I'm going to push a little bit on our younger generation. We need to understand the boundaries that are truly where toxicity exists or harassment or abuse, and stay at those boundaries and don't set your boundary just on what makes you uncomfortable. So my encouragement to younger professionals who deal with challenging people is you're going to deal with challenging people, whether they be clients, coworkers, bosses. Not everybody communicates the way you do. Not everybody does conflict the way you do. There will be some people with sharp elbows or that speak overly directly or don't have filters. And it doesn't mean it's okay to be disrespectful to people, but you in your life will deal with challenging people. So don't immediately think about hitting eject when you have a challenging relationship dynamic.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point. We want to pull that escape hatch so many times. And there's one thing about having stress and anxiety over a boss that really pushes and encourages you to take big risks, and they're really hard. And then, of course, the situation we're talking about here is not quite that. But that's such a good point.
High expectations with direct feedback is not
That's
mean.
right.
It's not being mean.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, they also have to equip you to be successful. So here's some constructive feedback that did not meet expectations, and what are you going to do next time? How can I help you? Why don't you think about? So you'll know when someone ultimately wants the best for you by the way they support you at getting better after they give you challenging feedback.
And you said something else in there that's so important. That's think longer term. I feel like when I was in my 20s and 30s, and when I talk to a lot of our kids or the people that we mentor, sometimes they have such a hard time thinking longer term.
Yeah.
Even if that's 5 years out, they want to think about the moment. And sometimes there's emotions in the moment.
Yeah.
You said on a recent podcast, I thought you were going to say, give it 45 minutes. And you said, give it 45 days.
Yes.
I think that's so key, is take some time and think long-term.
Yep. Any other thoughts on how to navigate a challenging boss?
Just be sure you manage your emotions. That's a little bit of the pause and reflect and really think through and manage your emotions, because those sometimes are, in this kind of situation, really hard. Again, you've got to define the guardrails or the boundaries you mentioned. Is this abusive?
Yeah.
Or is it just hard?
Yeah. Yeah. And trust us, being able to navigate difficult or hard for a season will make you better and stronger.
Yes.
So it might not feel good in the moment, but if it's not abusive, and it's tough. It's a tough relationship dynamic, and it doesn't feel good all the time. You will grow positively through this.
There's so much value to adversity.
Yes.
Boy, if you've read the book Outliers, I think it is, by Malcolm Gladwell, that whole book is about really successful people in life, and a lot of that came from the lessons they learned in adversity and very hard challenges in life.
Yeah, and you and I have personal stories that are probably worthy of a couple podcasts about adversity and tough times that ultimately resulted in good stuff.
I think so. The one you keep wanting me to tell about my college experience is maybe not one I really want to tell, but maybe we'll get there.
We are definitely going to tell.
Yeah, and I think make sure you define for yourself, what do you want out of this? So that's a bit of the thinking long term. Am I willing in this situation, assuming this is going to stay my boss for a while, am I willing to find a middle ground where we can work through this and continue working? Or is any outcome where this person is still my boss, or even with this company, unacceptable? You got to decide that.
Yes.
And then act on it. But think long-term, manage your emotions, take the high road, be careful.
Yes.
Navigate this and take the high road.
Yeah. Excellent. So let's move past toxic.
Yeah, I think you've got a story that's different from toxic. I think you've got a passive example. Tell us about that.
Yeah, and I'm going to create a persona that's actually a blend of two former bosses that both were passive or unavailable in a way that left me feeling like I was kind of on my own in the job. And in both cases, I was a younger professional and new in a role. Both cases, new in a city. I was living in a new place for both of these jobs. And my leader was a pretty typical leader who was good at the function that they were responsible for, but not good as a leader. They were not thinking of their job as a leader as much of a priority. We didn't spend any time talking about my development, where I wanted to go. Any kind of coaching or feedback I got was related to a specific transaction that we were doing.
And so in the moment, how did that make you feel?
Well, it felt like I was a transaction. And early on, I thought, well, this is, I guess, what bosses do. They just, they coach you or critique you on the moment or ask you how one was a sales role and one was an account management role.
So in a sense, you're saying, hey, I didn't know any better. I thought I was early in my career, so this is what I thought it was like.
Yeah, this is what you get. And then I felt like, well, I'm not getting any better. And we're not talking about career development, and they don't really know me that well and don't know where I want to go. And they're not removing barriers. And I kind of felt like one in particular was sort of like going through the motions when we spent time together. So it just felt like I was kind of on my own and I didn't have them advocating for me or even challenging me to be better towards some target. So it was just a little demotivating. I was kind of on my own. And I had two different outcomes. The one, I left after about a year because I wasn't getting help getting better and I wasn't that good at the job naturally. And so I was demotivated. I didn't know where to go. I wasn't passionate about anything. I didn't see any what's in it for me. Why would I stick this out? The second one, I sort of had some natural talent where I could navigate it well and I enjoyed what I was doing and I could create success on my own without much direction and guidance. So that job I stayed with and advanced and grew pretty well.
So this individual was not necessarily passive by choice. They weren't ignoring you. This was just the way they operated. They may have been passive kind of in life.
Yeah, I think they were passive about their leadership job.
Yeah.
They were not passive about the functional job.
Okay.
They were very successful as a senior person in the role I was in. They knew the subject matter. They were great at it. This was the account management role. They were very good with clients. I learned by watching them when I got time with them, but it wasn't because they exposed me to it on purpose. So in this case, I had to take initiative for my own development and carve out a way to be successful. And the reason I stuck with that is because I enjoyed it. I had some sort of natural ability to be okay. The first one, I had no desire to try. I got lucky kind of going into the second one where I had a way to be successful kind of on my own.
Any advice for listeners that are in a passive situation like that? Just very specific, maybe one or two things they can do right away.
Yeah, I think the first is really relative to our first 60 days episode not too long ago, where we talked about having that check-in with your boss after 30 days to just say, how are we doing? So I wish I had the professional interpersonal skills to do this, because I think both bosses were good people and they would have been receptive had I known to do this, but I should have gone and said, I need a little bit more of this, or what should I expect of your investment in my development, or, said some appropriate way. So I could, one, express that I had the desire and need to get better. And I viewed them as being part of the process of helping me, and then ask them if they would do it, because I bet, knowing both of those people, thinking back, they would have done something differently if I knew enough to ask.
Sure.
So I would do that, first 30 days alignment conversation with your boss. How's it going? What do you need from me? What do I need from you? And don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
I was having a conversation with one of our oldest boys this past week, and they're in a situation where they're being offered a promotion. They're in a situation that's a bit passive. I won't say that their boss and their boss's boss are purely passive, but my son is not getting, from what I understand, a lot of feedback at all. And so I encouraged him in a discussion about this potential new role to ask for feedback on what can he do to develop and get better.
Excellent.
And he asked, and There was no answer. And so
meaning they didn't have anything to offer because he's doing great, or because they just hadn't even thought about it?
Don't know. My bet is the latter.
Yeah, I would bet.
So even when you do go to your boss and ask, and if they don't have an answer, keep asking, because sometimes it takes the ask for the boss to realize,
yes,
wow, this person wants more feedback. I'm not giving it. I better start thinking of things that I can give them both positive and negative feedback on, ways to get better.
Yeah, and I am teaching leadership training as part of one of my client projects right now. And the main through line of this leadership development curriculum is just intentionality. And I'm guessing your son's boss, like many, and mine and my past bosses I was just talking about, probably just didn't appreciate the job that they were supposed to do as a leader. They're focused on other stuff. It could be the way their organization's structured. It could be the way they're measured. It could be the way they're currently being led. They're just not aware of how important their role is as a leader in addition to getting the job done.
And perhaps there's a little imposter syndrome baked in there.
Oh, no question. No question. Because of these two boss examples, after this second job that I was describing, the account management job, I started my first company. So no surprise that my first couple companies, I led people without really being much of a good boss for them either, because I never was exposed to it. So give your boss, who's passive but a good person, give them a chance to do the things that you would like them to do by giving them the feedback respectfully, and just tell them that, hey, I want to grow, I want to get better. And I don't know many well-intentioned leaders who don't want to hear from the people they lead, hey, boss, I want to get better. Can you help me?
And do you think it's also helpful and wise for a leader, regardless of how senior you are, how far into your career you are, to ask your team, how can we be better? How can I be better? How can I, as a leader of this team, give you more of what you need? Why is that not asked more often?
I think it's just a lack of intentionality.
Okay.
I think it's overarching lack of intentionality. And then there are some folks who are uncomfortable with the conversation.
And some that have a chip on their shoulder and feel that they would be belittled, I guess, by showing weakness if they ask their team, how can I be a better servant to you?
Yes. And the reality is, when a leader humbles him or herself to the point of saying, hey, you people I lead, what can I start, stop, or continue to be better for you? Those people will run through walls for that leader. Because if my boss is coming to me asking how I can be better for them, I know they're for me.
Man, what a difference that
so
communicates.
In this leadership training I'm talking about, this is one of the pieces I do, is we talk about how to facilitate the conversation so it's a two-way. What do we need from each other? How do we get better? And it happens frequently. And it seems so basic and it's common sense, but the whirlwind of the day job of having to make widgets and deliver whatever gets in the way sometimes of the rhythm that you want to put in place as the leader. The reality is prioritizing it first, your job as a leader first, gets the widgets made way better.
Yes. Good stuff. Are we ready for key takeaways?
I think so, yeah.
You want to start the first one off?
Well, the first one, overarching, is advocate for yourself. You are your first and most important cheerleader and advocate, and you know what you need. So don't be afraid to speak up.
I'll throw out two here. Think long term.
Yeah.
And think about or define the boundaries that are acceptable for you. Maybe be willing to push them, as long as it's not an abusive situation. Be willing to push those into a little bit comfortable areas. Again, as long as it's not too far and too toxic.
Relational discomfort and adversity is part of your growth trajectory and will serve you well. Learning how to navigate tough relationship dynamics, especially with a boss or a client, are invaluable skills that will serve you forever.
And then make a decision one way or the other.
Be ready to make the call if you need to.
At some point, you're going to have to decide, do I need to bring HR in or somebody else in? And just be very thoughtful about that, because it does change the dynamics of it. There are certainly times when that is the absolute right thing to do. If this is pushing well beyond boundaries, certainly if it's abusive, there's no doubt that HR is supposed to be there for you initially, to be a sounding board for you and help you navigate, is this toxic or abusive? or is it just something that maybe is uncomfortable and we can work through it together?
Yeah. And that function should also be available to you in the passive situation. If you're not getting developed, the talent management function should be aware of ways you can be trained, taught, equipped, developed. So that would be a great resource to go to, just to fact find, what does this organization offer? What should I expect from my leader, et cetera.
Good.
Okay.
I have a question, and then we'll wrap up. Do you think if we started every Early Edge with hello, Early Edge f***ers, our audience would like that?
We'll take audience feedback at earlyedge@reddogadvisors.com or earlyedge@altaimpact.com.
There you go. Okay, we want to hear from you. All right, there's your Early Edge for the week. Everybody enjoy the week, and we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to the Early Edge, a mentorship podcast for next generation leaders. If you have feedback or would like to submit questions or a topic idea, email us at earlyedge@reddogadvisors.com
or earlyedge@altaimpact.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please follow, subscribe, rate, and review. See you next time.